Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Southbridge School Committee meeting on Tuesday, June 4th. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak this evening?
Jill Congdon, 298 High Street, speaking on behalf of the Southbridge Elementary PTA. I just wanted to say that today the PTA sponsored at West Street School the Eyes on Owl show, which the kids seemed to really enjoy. My daughter came home and said that she really learned a lot about owls. She was even drawing pictures of owls today. I think last week they did a show for grades 1 through 5 at Charlton Street School as well. We're also sponsoring a first grade field trip to Southwick Zoo for all the first graders that the PTA is sponsoring next week. And last week, the PTA sponsored the 5th grade field trip to Old Sturbridge Village, along with a private donor who also helped sponsor that field trip as well. Tomorrow night is our last PTA meeting that we're inviting everyone to at 7 o'clock in the Old Southbridge High School on 25 Cole Ave. Tomorrow we'll be selecting a winner for each box top Labels for Education and Coke Rewards collector for each school. The winner for each school will win 2 free movie tickets that were donated by Cinemagic in Sturbridge. All collectors who collected all of the box tops, Coke, and labels throughout the year will be entered to win a pass to Cocoa Keys and a variety of scholastic books as well. Second, a subgroup of the PTA, the West Street School Playground Committee, has been formed. We will have our second meeting tomorrow night at 6 o'clock in the Old Southbridge High School in room 200 on Cole Ave. We're looking to raise about $75,000 to build a community playground at West Street School. Letters will be being sent out to all West Street School parents and local businesses. We'll also be applying for a variety of grants to help fund for the playground. Anyone interested in donating money or time for this can contact southbridgepta@gmail.com or send donations to the Southbridge Elementary PTA at P.O. Box 844, or they can call 508-344-8431 to get involved with this community project. For next year's PTA to get involved, if you have any ideas, you can email us at southbridgepta@gmail, check us out on Facebook, or call the PTA hotline number if you have any ideas or thoughts regarding next year's PTA. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else this evening from the public who'd like to speak? Please come to the podium and state your name and address, please.
Casey Chuchon, 319 Main Street. Good evening. First and foremost, I'd like to say that I come here before you tonight on my own, but I hope to represent the thoughts of my fellow 8th graders. I've come here before you tonight and hope to persuade you to have an 8th grade graduation ceremony. In fairness, Mr. Leach did say he would consider a request, but I want to impress on you how important it is to our class. Our class is requesting an 8th grade graduation for the following reasons. Starting at the beginning of 8th grade year, we went on our 8th grade orientation. It was stated that as much as one school, there will be a separation between middle school and high school. That's the reason why they named it Southbridge Middle High School, to put an emphasis on the separation between 2 sections. Our feeling is that if the town feels so strongly about keeping these parts separate, then they should put some amount of emphasis on students that are evolving from middle school to high school. This brings me to my next point. Transitioning from 8th grade to high school is a big transition. It marks the end of our elementary school years. Our transcripts do not carry on to the next year. A new chapter in our lives will begin. What about all the hard work we've done? What about the students on our National Junior Honor Society who have demonstrated a certain level of academic excellence? This too will not transfer to next school year. What have we been working so hard for? If we do not have a graduation, what lasting image does this leave on the upcoming 8th grade classes? A graduation will help us bring closure to our elementary years and give us a sense of accomplishment. It will help us to enter our freshman year with more optimistic attitude. Another reason why it's important to us to have an 8th grade graduation is we're going our separate ways. Just like high school, some of us remain at Southbridge High, but some of us might go to Bay Path or other schools. We would like to have one final group celebration before we depart our separate ways. Our final reason is we feel important to have an 8th grade graduation is for tradition. With our new school is a ripped out section of the old high school gym and placed in our new gym, symbolically combine the new with the old. This is one tradition that should remain. I know at least one counselor that will have a children in 8th grade next year, and another that have their children in the same situation soon enough. Please act now to enable a class to have an 8th grade graduation and to set a precedent for the upcoming 8th graders that were transitioned through Southbridge school system. That is why I feel we deserve an 8th grade graduation. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else this evening who'd like to speak? Just state your name and address, please.
Mike Murray, Lynn Lane. Good evening. Tonight I come before you to talk about two items. One let's call 2-year-old unfinished business, and the other would be current or new business. Watching the horrific news of the tornado damage in Oklahoma, and with it being so close to this town's own 2-year anniversary, I'll remind you the last time I became before the school committee. It was on June 4th, 2011, exactly 2 years ago, when I asked the previous administration and school committee to review all policies related to the crisis planning handbook put in place by former Superintendent Joanne Austin 6 superintendents ago, and to update the contact information and procedures as needed. It was never done, and the very same outdated crisis handbook is still in place today. I'm sorry to point out another broken system, but yet that is exactly what the district's crisis handbook remains. The excuse at the time was that a tornado would never hit a school in session. Well, that's been exposed as the ridiculous excuse it sounded to be 2 years ago. Unfortunately, tornadoes do happen sometimes when kids are in schools and when teachers stay late after school. If granted the time of notification, knowing what to do and who's supposed to do what and where you're supposed to go could absolutely save lives. If lockdown drills can be practiced in schools, at least the communication of tornado plans, and if not the actual drills themselves, should be practiced. Right now, the tornado disaster procedure is a blank tab in your crisis handbook. For fire drills, you have plans on where you're supposed to go. They're visible. But for a tornado, those things are very different. You probably don't want to go outside. But it'd be nice to have that in place. And I have a sense that this administration will finally rectify this situation. The real reason I'm here tonight is new business. By now, you're probably all very aware of the concerning school choice mailer that was received by the majority of homes in Southbridge on April 10th. I took great offense to this mailer by the Quabog Regional School System because it's trying to solicit our students to become their students. I would think it would be in the interest of the town to push back in some way to express our dissatisfaction with this type of hurtful activity. I've already done so personally. I've contacted the ABC soup of state agencies and met with the town manager, Chris Clark. He wrote to Senator Moore and Rep. Durant requesting that they investigate the use of $4,563 of their operating budget to send out 19,000 mailers to 4 different towns. They took it seriously, and they filed a state ethics violation complaint on the town's behalf. Unfortunately, the Ethics Commission is not going to inform them of their findings per conflict of the interest, Mass General Law 268B. However, I've spoken to other communities who were solicited to try to form a coalition of the willing against these type of school choice solicitations. All the other towns, Ware, North Brookfield, Spencer, East Brookfield, school committee chairs have given positive responses to writing to the Mass School Committee Association for a policy restriction on solicitation of public education students. That's not saying school choice is going to be banned. I'm talking about the solicitation of school choice students. Legislation against this would be ideal, but it might be hard to achieve. But I believe a policy restriction and having the Mass School Committee lobby for that might be the right way to go. This is the second time I'm aware of that the Quabog School District has actively recruited our students. They did it back in 2006. Nothing was done about it then, and they've come back to take a second bite out of the apple. When our school choice numbers are starting to come back in line, theirs are starting to fall away, and that's exactly why they're doing this. They have capacity. That's the whole reason for it. They're playing financial games with all of their neighbors. It's a game of turning public education into a profitable commerce for them. Public education is not free market for the plundering of students to create winners at the loser's expense. That's exactly what Quabog is doing. Beyond questioning the morality of this, I question the legality of it. They used a nonprofit bulk mailing permit. I'm not aware of any school district who has one of those. They also unauthorized use of the Lego Corporation logo. They did a lot of things wrong with this, and it was very selective as to who they sent it to, which is most disturbing. It's also extremely important to understand the financial ramifications that will compound over the school students' remaining years in school. You lose them once, and they sent these out to kindergartens. We could lose them for 12 straight years. That's a huge financial loss. And if you're not sure what that really means to you, Spencer, they have $264,000 loss school choice. North Brookfield, $384,000 lost to school choice. Ware, $739,000 lost to school choice. And then there's Southbridge. It's reduced from what I understand, but it's over $1 million. Quabog, they have a net result of plus 29 students right now. They send out, they receive in, they're on a plus of $170,000 simply because they're soliciting. And they put out a nice article in the TNG about marketing, and their marketing's got them third place. We have two other local school districts who are taking in more money. One is $424,000 on the positive side of school choice, and the granddaddy, that green town, $806,000 in positive school choice money. You know, I believe you guys were looking for $1 million more for the town. There's where your money is. In 2004 to 2009, Quabog was on the losing end of school choice, and they suffered the same perception issues that we do. They are now on the winning marketing perception game of that, but that doesn't mean they're any better. In fact, They're rejected by 107 of their own students who don't think they are as innovative as they claim to be. To the parents of Southbridge, if you're thinking about going there, I caution you to think of what the 107 children who school choiced out of there know that you don't. One of the things that was most disturbing was the selection of who received the solicitation. I've contacted Aspera to confirm my own informal inquiry, and they informed me that no one on their board of directors received this mailer. Also keep in mind that they said they mailed out 19,000 mailers. But besides Aspera, I contacted the other towns. Each school committee chairman said the exact same thing. They couldn't figure out who got it and who didn't, but they know that happened in each of their towns as well. You know, in business and in sports, I found that if you don't disrupt someone else's game plan, they're going to keep taking it to you and keep hurting you until you do something about it. So my question for this elected body is, are you going to take this mailer on the chin again? Or are you willing to try to do something about it to try to stop future solicitation mailings? I have the contact information for all of the other school committee chairs. And I just need to know if the town, the school district wants to be part of trying to stop this. I've done my part. I'd like to know the school district is going to do something too. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the public who'd like to speak this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to call the meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please, Max?
Dr. D'Amico?
Present.
Mrs. Donovan?
Present.
Mr. Lazo?
Present.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Present.
Dr. O'Leary?
Present.
Mrs. Principe?
Present.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Present.
7 present.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of minutes. There are no minutes this evening to approve, so we'll move on to chairwoman's announcements. There are also no chairwoman's announcements. Moving on to the reports of the representative of the student, there are no reports of the representative of the student. Next, we have school committee reports. Curriculum Subcommittee, Mrs. Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do not have a report, and I do not have another meeting scheduled at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Policy, Mrs. Principe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our last meeting was May 29th, 25 Cole Ave, room M100. Present, myself, subcommittee members Kara Donovan and Laura McLaughlin. Also present was Lisa Russo, a district employee in grants in the revolving funds area. Mike Como, maintenance director. Community members Jill Congdon and Erin Quinney. We received additional input from Lieutenant Lavoie, the town fire inspector, Mr. Como, and Ms. Russo regarding the community use of school facilities application. It was incorporated into that application, and it was sent to our superintendent, Basan Nebrikov, for his input. Mr. Como and Ms. Russo left the meeting approximately 10:30. Ms. Congdon and Ms. Quinney at 11:10. We started a review of the entire policy manual. Just the introduction itself was 5 pages long, so we clarified language, deleted excess verbiage, and it has become a more user-friendly document. I also asked the subcommittee members and community members, who will soon be school committee members, that we would be next working on our sexual harassment policy. We will continue to go through the manual also. The meeting adjourned at 12:20 p.m., and I thank Laura McLaughlin for the minutes. Thank you. One more thing. I always forget. Our next meeting on policy is on June 12th, 9 a.m., 25 Cole Ave, room M100. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Budget, Facilities, and Transportation. Dr. D'Amico.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No report. The meeting has been scheduled for tomorrow, June 5th, 6:30 at Cole Ave.
Thank you. Collective Bargaining Subcommittee, Mrs. Principe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our next negotiations with the Teachers Association is tomorrow at 5 p.m., 25 Cole Ave. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, communication, family, and community engagement, Mrs. McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A meeting was held on May 29th in the Cole Ave Administration Building. At that meeting, we discussed parent communication maps that we've kind of been working on all year as an easier way for parents to get information and to know who to contact. We were hoping those could be possibly included in the school district handbooks. That may or may not happen, but at least we've completed those and presented them to Mr. Nemberko for his consideration. We had talked about scheduling a final parent forum. When we conducted our parent forums earlier this year, we told families we'd be coming back. We've kind of decided on doing a consolidated forum rather than a series as what we did initially. So we have tentatively scheduled that. We need to make sure that we can use the building, but June 19th from 6:30 to 8 at the old high school auditorium. And we also discussed the goals for next year's subcommittee. When I had an idea to form this committee this year, I wasn't sure what direction it was really going to go in. It was something new, but I thought very necessary. I continue to believe that. But I thought it was important for the next year to go in with defined mission and goals so that as we go around in the community or as things are referred to us, that we're all on the same page as to what we're hoping to accomplish. So that was something that I prepared a draft of, and that will be reviewed and hopefully approved at the next subcommittee meeting so we can move forward. And that next meeting will take place next Tuesday at 7 o'clock, also in the Cole Ave Administration Building. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to presentations. Tonight, we have presentations on the summer school program by Ms. Amy Allen, Director of Curriculum Instruction, Ms. Colleen Culligan, Director of Pupil and Personnel Services, and Dr. Sarah Jordan, Director of ELL. Ladies?
In front of you, you have a descriptor of all of the programs. I think I said last meeting that we would have one document outlining all of the programs that we have, and in a simplified format of description, dates, times, cost, lunch, transportation, eligibility, and then importantly a program contact, so there would be someone there. And also what we will do as soon as we go through all of this, at each site there will be a program administrator, so any parent, any citizen that has concerns or any questions about transportation, et cetera, there will be one person there always available to answer questions rather than being sent from program to program to program. So we have three separate presentations tonight from the summer school program, and I'll let Ms. Allen start.
So if everybody's had a chance to look at it, I'd just like to entertain any questions that you have, because each of us have kind of been involved in either writing the grants or setting up the programs for the various areas. So if you have questions, we can each
Mrs. Donovan?
respond.
Thank you. One question that came to mind right away was, do we already have students targeted who will be taking these courses, or is that something that they will not necessarily apply for, but do we have an idea of how many students will be participating in each of these programs that you're offering?
So they're all going to be very different.
Right.
The 4-credit summer school, it's clearly up to the parents and the students if they want to take the summer school 4-credit course, because it's $150 per course to take it. Obviously, there's conditions for it, so we don't know. And we haven't gotten the full responses yet. The registration is actually the week before summer school starts. They have to have their registration in, so we won't know how many students are going to participate until the week before it starts. The 625 grant for non-credit, again, that's also, the registration is the week before, and that is at no cost, but that is a voluntary thing for students who are wanting or needs improvement on NCAS, and it's an enrichment to help them. So we can't predict how many students or how many parents are going to want to give up that summertime to take this. It would be beneficial, absolutely, but this is a grant and it's free. So we won't know again until the week before. And the summer enrichment program for the elementary schools, the teachers have targeted 10 to 12 students per grade in 2 through 5 for this that are not quite meeting standards. So we're hoping that all of those students will be attending this program. We can't force them, but we are encouraging that to occur. So as far as numbers go, we can't be sure yet.
If I may, so people are clear, we have, maybe I'll just go over the programs very quickly, and then you can answer questions. We have the typical summer school for credit at the high school for students who have failed or who want to make up a course, and we're going to offer a variety of courses in history, biology, algebra, geometry, English 1-4, and then Scholastic Aptitude Test. In the middle school, we're going to be offering courses in science, English, social studies, and math. And we've coordinated the dates, so this starts on July 8th and goes to August 8th, 2013, from 8 to 12. And and then eligibility, again, we've worked very hard on that because we wanted students to work hard during the school year rather than doing less and then coming for the summer credit and so on. So it's, you have to at least earn a 50, and then a minimum course in order to have that class, we need 8 students. And then at the same time, we have a summer academic grant program, non-credit, and this is state-funded, and it's for MCAS assistance for students who have a warning or needs improvement in either the ELA or the math section of MCAS. And Debbie Billis, Ms. Debbie will be responsible for that, and that's a free course. We also have English support classes, and that's also grant funded, and Mr. Michael Silvestri will be responsible for that. At the elementary school, we have 2 programs. One will be a summer enrichment program, and it'll be held at Charlton Street. We're trying to coordinate the location so if you go to one place, and it's for students grades 2 to 5 who attend our elementary school, both West Street and Charlton. And again, the dates are the same, August 8th, July 8th to August 15th. And it's grant funded, and these programs all have lunch provided at site. And Ms. Kathleen Cadaret will be responsible for it, and it's based on principal and teacher recommendation. And then again, another English support classes, grant funded at the same site, will be provided. Now in special ed, we're required to provide programs for certain students over the summer, so we'll be providing SPED classes at middle and high school from July 1 to August 1. And this will be the inclusion in the middle school Pass and Life Skills. Then there's a special education work experience program for older students also at there. These are all IEP programs, so it's very clear about eligibility. The numbers have already been predetermined who's eligible, and transportation lunch will be provided for these programs. And similarly, we'll have a program at Charlton Street for grades 1 through 4, and then again in the Eastwood Road schools for pre-K and K, and then the grade 1 pass program with all these programs. So again, we'll have a site coordinator at the middle high school. Mr. Rick Carrero will be responsible to answer all the questions regarding the administration and management of the program. And the summer enrichment programs will be Ms. Cadaret and Ms. Perez. And then the English support program, Dr. Jordan will be responsible for that. So this gives you an overview, and they're here to answer any specific questions. We've also used grant money to provide transportation for that, and a lunch program to have access to lunch for the students there. So I think we have it coordinated quite well. We have identified all of the instructors. They've all been notified of their programs and so on, and we look to move forward on that.
Thank you. So do we have any questions from anyone? Mrs. McLaughlin?
Thank you. Not really sorry. Thank you for this. This is very helpful. It's not really a question, but just under program contact, have these already been printed and distributed?
No, what we're doing now is looking at the various different programs. Mr. Carrero for the core credit program will be distributing information about that. He has registration hours set, and the other programs are being distributed to the individual schools.
Could I make a suggestion that you also include email addresses here? I just know there's some families' feedback that we've gotten from the parent forum is some parents prefer to contact through email because when they're thinking of something, it may be 9 o'clock at night, and they work during the day and aren't able to make the connections with the people they need to. So if email addresses could just be added.
This is for school committee and for our purposes.
Oh, so this is not,
This hasn't been put together because
Okay.
we're not going to make copies because many students aren't eligible for the programs.
Okay.
So the SPED program will be handled differently versus the summer enrichment program because that's teacher and principal identification of students who need that additional support.
gotcha,
So
okay.
otherwise, people will think it's a free program, they can go to it.
Mhm.
So we're trying to stagger that and then send information out to the people who would be affected by it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions this evening? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to Ms. Allen. I was wondering about the grants. Are these grants available every year? And is it, if these programs this year are very successful, do we have the capability to hold similar programs next summer? Or is it strictly by a year-to-year basis based on availability of grant funding?
The summer enrichment program is a Title II carryover. So that's money that wasn't spent last year
Okay.
that I'm using this year for this program. If this is successful, clearly in the regular 2A grant, I will make sure that this is funded for next year.
Okay.
If we have a good turnout and this works out, because I think this is really important for the middle school because they haven't previously had any kind of program for retention, so to speak. So this is our response to trying to alleviate that problem. So if this works out, it'll definitely be written into the Title II grant for next year. And Dr. Jordan can probably speak about the ELL.
The ELL program is granted by Title III, and there's so many limitations around that, it's very hard to spend that on program during the school year. I currently have a parent ESL program going, and we've had trouble spending it in the past few years, maybe because there wasn't an ELL director to give it direction, and we lost quite a few $1,000s last year. So this year is being funded by that carryover as well as this year's funds. Next year we have enough to run a program on that. And since there's so much summer learning loss at this point, it seems like this is a very good investment of funds.
Mm-hmm. And one more thing, Madam Chair, if I may ask, and perhaps this is something that will automatically happen, but it would be nice at the beginning of the new school year, once all this is done, to just get some type of feedback to determine whether or not these programs were in fact successful, the attendance rates, and just so that we have a better gauge on what we're looking at, an evaluation tool moving forward.
Yeah. And in
to be
fact, for
presented.
these, the grant-funded programs, we're required to
Okay.
provide an assessment of how the program worked, what was successful, what wasn't, and that's a basis for them to allocate money. So we will definitely have to do that, so we'll provide you with a copy of that
I would
information.
appreciate that. Thank you very much. All set, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions? Seeing none, thank you, ladies. We'll be moving on to the report of the superintendent.
And there's one other program that's occurring in the summer, and at West Street School, there'll be a summer recreation program that's open Monday, July 8th, to again Friday, August 16th, for children aged 6 to 12, and it's free. And they'll have arts, crafts, and sports available to them. So I think we have a broad set of activities for students during the course of the summer.
Dr. Jordan?
There was one more program. Because we're reaching out to students as part of Title III, we have a program running at Brookside Village in which we're sending a teacher and a para to implement and support the summer reading program of the schools, because a lot of those students might not be able to catch the bus that will bring them to Charlton, and there's such a large cohort there. Last year we serviced 22 students on a moment's notice. I started the program and the next day it started. And now with planning with Wanda Viorette, it looks like we will be having 30 or more in that program.
Great, thank you. And for the report of the superintendent?
Yes, you have in front of you the projected enrollments. This was requested for this fall. It will be 2,306 students. We're anticipating, again, those numbers are flexible and fluid because my experience has been over the years that when some parents see the yellow school buses rolling, they think it's time for school and they bring their little tykes to be registered. We're going to try to make an effort to get people registered early and to have access to our schools so we can create the class sizes and place students in appropriate settings before school starts. So we're working hard on that. You also have the graduating class information in front of you. Graduation obviously is this Friday night, and there's a listing of the schools that the students will be attending, and I usually have stuff pretty well organized in front of me, but moving a little slow. Okay, someone's organized. And the first class graduating from the new middle senior high school, and I think it's important just to look at percentages. First, 7% of the students are anticipating going on to the military, 21% to four-year colleges, and 43% to two-year colleges. So we're anticipating 65% going on to higher education, which is low. And 21% attending four-year colleges and universities is also very low. So I think we have our work cut out here to create more rigorous programs earlier than high school, starting at middle school, and start setting up a program, setting higher expectations for students, that if you're going to be successful in the 21st century, you have to have higher skills. And I think that we've been lacking in setting those goals for students. We'll be working on that coming this fall. And then we will also expect more, and as you've already know, we've substantially changed curriculum at high school to offer more electives, more rigorous courses, and eliminate some of those that we didn't feel were very rigorous. The 21% going on to four-year colleges have been accepted to some very fine institutions in the region and around the country, starting with the local schools of Assumption College, Bridgewater State, Bryant. There's a couple students going out to Brigham Young University, says Idaho, but I think it's Utah. I think our former governor would not be happy with us mislabeling that. And then the Quinnipiac, Providence, Sacred Heart, Salem Hill. So we University of Connecticut. These are selective schools, University of Mass Amherst, but there still isn't the Ivy Leagues and things that we need to be working on much more aggressively with our students. So in a year or two, we would like to see 80% higher education, because in 2013 and 2014 and 2015, there's not a whole lot you can do with a high school diploma today that will support a middle-class family. So it's incumbent upon us to be doing that. Technical and training programs, we're expanding that next year with the engineering and science programs, so we offer more of that starting earlier years. And then one of the things we need to be looking at is more in technology. We have computers, we have labs, and we need to be looking at bringing more people on board that can work with those students, because that's where we're going. So that's the report that was requested on update with that. The one area that I also passed out to you, the coordinated program review, and I'd like Ms. Culligan to come back up there. And I think it's important to know that our special education department was in serious shambles. And what we've done now in the last few months is responded to a state report and a review, and then she has her response to it. I'll let you talk about the coordinated program review, how it was precipitated, some very quick findings, and then what we're going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Good evening. Very briefly, I came before this committee back in February 2013, and I gave you a fairly substantive report about the special education department and the mid-cycle review. The mid-cycle report letter to Mr. Ely stating the department was, the State Department of Education was concerned regarding the number of issues identified which had reoccurred was in your packet back in February. The district received that in June 2012. I came on in November, and in December 2012, I received a letter addressed to Mr. Ely stating that the special education department had dropped down 3 levels of need to the second lowest of 5 levels that it can be rated in the state with respect to compliance. So we were at the second to the last level, the needs improvement level for special education services and compliance with the state. As you know, I came on in mid-November. At that time, when I made the presentation in February, I discussed several tight timelines that we were under. We needed to submit reports February 25th, April 8th, May 15th, and June 2nd. And all 4 of those were staggered and tiered responses to the original report that I had given you, which was from June. They involve cease and desist practices, trainings, administrative reviews, internal monitoring, corrections for all areas of noncompliance. And what you have before you is the final letter. It's an example of what I had to submit at each of those 4 different time frames. It doesn't have any of the enclosed packet, which is fairly substantial as well in the interest of saving some trees. But it gives you an example. It is our final letter. With this letter, we will get a final determination from the state about our compliance issues. We did have an unannounced site visit, which is a final piece of the mid-cycle review. We had our program quality services specialist come to the Cole Ave site and again review more files, speak with me, spoke with the superintendent, and reviewed the findings. And I can tell you that she was very positive. The state is very pleased, and they intend to do a final letter for us with respect to the direction and the positive direction that I can say that we are headed for the special education department. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Anyone? Mrs. Donovan?
Yes, thank you. Relative to that letter you were just referring to, Ms. Culligan, do you have any estimation of time of when you would receive notice from the state?
It should be in June,
that fast?
probably by the end of June.
Okay, well, thank you, and thank you for all your hard work. I know it's been a daunting task, and it's not just a quick fix, and I've seen you at work, and I would like to sincerely thank you for all the time and energy that you have put into this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I guess we are all
Thank
set
you.
tonight. Thank you. All set with the presentation? Anything else?
I'm finished
You good?
talking.
All right, moving on to agenda item 11, school committee actions. There are no school committee actions this evening. Next agenda is unfinished business. We have 3 second readings of 3 policies. The first one is the reading of the school committee member authority and obligations policy file BBAA. The second reading of the staff conduct policy files GBEB, and the second reading of the school choice intra-district policy file JFBC. Is there anything you'd like to say, Mrs. Principe, on these policies, or?
No, I think we went over it. I would like to waive the readings, and I just want the public to know, until these policies are finally adopted, there are copies that are on the bulletin board, the second bulletin board at 25 Cole Ave in that long hallway, if anybody would like to review them. That's it, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to waive the readings by Mrs. Principe. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Donovan. Is there any other discussion on those three second readings? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call on that. Max, please.
Mr. Lazo?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Yes.
Mrs. Principe?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes?
Dr. Domingo? Mrs. Donovan?
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you. Moving on to Agenda 13, new business. The next regular school committee meeting will be held on June 18th, 2013, Council Chambers. Is there any other new business this evening? Mrs. McLaughlin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple things. At the last meeting, I forgot to mention, Mrs. Condon came up and talked about the talent show, the elementary school talent show, and she thanked a lot of people, but I was present at that talent show that night, and I actually just want to thank Mrs. Congdon. She was the MC of that and did a fantastic job, and I just don't think, she obviously didn't give credit to herself, so I will here. The other thing I wanted to mention is that today in my email, I received from the superintendent an electronic link to a survey, the K-12 Insight Survey. So for people that have signed up for that, or people that want to sign up for that, there is a link on the district website. You can just Google Southbridge Public Schools, the homepage comes up, and there's a way for people to participate in that. So I would encourage people that have not signed up to do so, and people that have already signed up and have received this latest survey link to go ahead and access that and complete it as soon as possible. That'll help the district. I also want to thank Casey Truchon for speaking earlier tonight. I just recently became aware that they were not going to have 8th grade graduation, which has been a tradition for as long as I can remember in Southbridge. And I do think where students are at that middle high school and are going to be there for such a long period of time, that ceremony is something that's important to continue. So I completely support that effort. And I also just want to thank Casey for coming up and speaking. It's not an easy thing to do for an 8th grader to come up and address us. So well done, Casey. And I also just, to Mr. Murray's comments on school choice and the Quabog mailing, I did receive that postcard. I was upset about that. I brought it to the superintendent's office and was notified that he had already received that information. I'm not sure what we can do right now. I'd like to see how the state ethics probe plays out, but it may be something that we can have a conversation with that school committee on. Legally, I'm not sure what we can do, but school choice has bothered me for a long time. I think we're pitting one district against another, and certainly districts that have struggled. School choice is just another nail in the coffin for districts like ours, and I don't like it. I understand it, but I don't like the way that it's run, and I wish it wasn't something we were dealing with. So we'll have to maybe get together as a group and figure out if there's something we want to do. But thank you, Mr. Murray, for your comments, too. Thank you.
Survey, one of the first things I recognized was the amount of dollars leaving the district on school choice. And I asked if anybody had asked the people why they were leaving, and my answer was no. So one of those surveys, we've identified all the students out there. We've sent them the survey information and with a series of questions about why they left and then what would we need to do to keep them here. So I expect that to be coming back in a few weeks, and then I'll have that compiled and report to the school committee on that. That was one of the first things I was concerned about when you have a disproportionate number of people leaving and virtually nobody coming in. It's something that has affected. I was superintendent when the law first came into effect, and when I was superintendent in the western part of the state, we had a compact among the superintendents that we would all vote in June saying that we would not participate in school choice. And we were successful in not having students leaving our district until one school district broke, and then the whole thing fell apart. So it lasted for about 5 years before we were involved in that. I commend Mr. Murray for taking this on, and I think that the school committee needs to have a conversation, and then with the MASS annual meeting, and I think that the legislative committee through your locals, you could bring that up and push that forward as an important item, because it really, when you look at it, it becomes a class issue more than anything else. And who leaves are the ones that are similar to charter schools. Where do they place those charter schools and where are they successful? And they target certain districts, certain towns with a demographic that's not homogeneous, and they go after that. So I think that sometimes it takes one upset person to start the snowball rolling, and then people can join in on that. So I think it's important that it be discussed, and then when you think about the whole aspect of choice, when you think about creating school districts that are diverse rather than racially or socioeconomically or linguistically isolated, and you're trying to create a better opportunity for everybody, this just takes away from it. And that's what it creates. So the state gives you money to provide programs like we're providing for racially and socially isolated, more isolated communities, members, and then on the other hand, they create an avenue for you to go out the back door. So really it really is counterproductive. Rather than taking a stance that American Publication is public and it's had attendance zones and community and it builds community, and this is just one more attempt, I think, that very subtly, under the guise of choice, so on, you create situations that create inequity and create serious issues for certain districts. So I think that at our next meeting, we need to be talking about this in the work session. Policy might be the appropriate place to bring it to, and then take a stand on it, and then I'd be happy to put something together and send it on, as you all would be able to. So I will have the information from the survey, and my hope is that a substantial number of people would respond to it. We sent out individual requests to those families. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business? Mrs. Donovan?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few items, but while we're talking about school choice, I'd like to discuss this a little bit further. I also think it's important not necessarily to target the families that have already left, but the ones that are leaving. Just today, I heard of a half a dozen right in my own child's class that are leaving. And when you ask why, and you hear it through the grapevine, and the parents, do not contact me directly. However, you hear that this one's leaving and this one's leaving, and oh, did you hear this one's going, and oh, did you hear this one's going? And when I ask why, I don't get an answer. I just get, oh, well, we're done with this place. They're done with their schools. They've had enough with this Southbridge school system. They're done. And that's just not a good enough answer. So I would hope that if those people who are leaving and have a reason to leave, that is your own business, but it would be helpful to us as a school committee to help rectify some of our issues if we know not solely know only the reasons why those who have left are gone, but why those who are considering to leave or in the process of seeking slots in other towns, why they are. I want to make it more of a present thing rather than a past thing. I think obviously the issues overlap, but we just need to still find out why are they still continuing to leave, not focusing on why had they left. Obviously, we've talked about new programs of studies and new configurations and new programs and the way that we're going to revamp the middle school, things like that. There is change coming. Maybe people just feel change needs to happen faster for them. I do not know what the reason is, but again, I think school choice is a big thorn in our sides, and it upsets me that, so many good families leave and friends of our kids leave. And the other part that is hard is that the kids who, and I'm going to say this for a lack of a better term, that are left behind, again, they feel, well, how come I'm still here? I guess my parents don't think that I'm worthy of something better because they're making me stay here, but, 9 other kids from my classroom are leaving, and they're going to get a better education, or they're telling our kids, well, we're going to go someplace better, we're going to get a better education than you, and I don't believe that that's true. So it is something that even me as a school committee member, I struggle with it all the time. It drives me crazy to always be contemplating school choice. And then as a parent and a school committee member, you have to second guess yourself, thinking, well, geez, am I doing the right thing trying to support my kid and support the school district? Or do I need to jump on the bandwagon too? And the reality is we are working hard, and I'm very comfortable with what I'm doing as a parent and as a school committee member. And I know what I know, and knowing what I know, we are here to stay. So we'll revisit this another day. The other thing that I'd like to mention is graduation is this Friday, so I would like to extend my sincere best wishes to all the seniors who are graduating this year, and I wish them the very best of luck on their future endeavors. To Ms. Casey, your first name is Casey, I believe. Ms. Truchion, also, thank you very much for coming to speak tonight. That takes some courage and representing the 8th grade. I personally was unaware that this graduation was not going to happen. It's something that I had when I was in the 8th grade. So, Madam Chair, if there's anything that we can look through, either at our level or through the principal level, even if it's not a graduation per se, I do feel those 8th graders are worthy and deserving of some type of end of elementary year celebration, acknowledgement, where there are children that will not be staying in, they'll be moving on to other schools or Bay Path, or whatever the choice may be. They have worked hard and they do need to be recognized and celebrated. So if we could maybe look into that and have a follow-up at our next meeting, of what actually transpired, I would appreciate that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other? Yeah, we can't do it now, I apologize, but we'll bring this up again, so if you want to come to the June 18th meeting, and we can discuss it then. Thank you. Mr. Lazo?
Yes, a couple of issues. The young lady that came up and spoke today about no graduation, we're talking about school choice. I was never a big fan of school choice. I think it's been devastating towards our community. I don't want to repeat what the previous speakers have said, because everything they said was absolutely true. The thing is, why are they leaving? They're not telling you. Well, they are telling me. I was at a Pop Warner Board of Directors meeting, and they were telling me they've had it up to here. If you want to play on a losing team, you go to the middle high school. If you want to bungle up your curriculum, go to the Southbridge guidance counselors. Not all of them, but our high school guidance department is in a shambles because of the moves that were made this year. The reason why we're going to experience we were slowing down the outgoing as we were building the middle school. We saw the numbers slowing down, stopping, and turning. After this disastrous year that we've experienced, what has happened is we've gutted out all the traditions of Southbridge High School. We have gutted out the traditions of Mary E. Wells Middle School, which now was going to be the middle school at the high school. What has happened under the things that have happened because of all the firings, removal, the instability, what people call change. You got your change. There have been so many changes this year, and that's what creates instability. The one thing I've learned in years of government is it's okay to change. Have a plan that works, that is implemented before you remove administrators. They are the leaders of your district. Why is our elementary so solid? Because of our administrators. We didn't fire them this year. They're doing a great job. Fantastic PTA, working hard. And working hard isn't really what it's about. It's the accomplishment of your workings. And whether you work hard or whether you work half-time, your accomplishments have been a banner year at the elementary level. We have a great booster club. They want to do great things. Look at your numbers in your athletic programs. You have a #1 batter in your girls softball program, and she doesn't get the Swickle All-Star. It's given to somebody else. It's not even on the Swickle top 10. My own daughter came home and wanted to go to Shepherd Hill yesterday. So if you don't know, wake up and smell the coffee. You created the problems that creates the exodus. Thank you.
Yeah, I take exception with that.
I hope you do.
I do, because I came here in February, and I inherited the shambles. And I think, I said before, the only way you can create confidence in the community is by having a school committee that acts for the best interest and talks about what the needs of the community are. The athletic department, I'll say now, we changed that. That person that I didn't hire is now gone. Our PE department was clearly a shambles. That'll be completely redone next year. People will be moved. I walked by there, I was always embarrassed to see the kids couldn't see the teacher, couldn't see this, and so on. So what I'm saying is that if we're going to change this, I need your support. Very simply, I came here to do a job. I don't need a job. And I really take exception when our elected leaders who are here supposed to be talking about this, talking about the shambles. And where are the shambles? I know where they are, but we're going to fix it. I'm not going to air it out here for everybody in the world to hear. So this is one of the things that I heard right before I came here, and I thought we had a pretty good deal going over here, and now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, and that athletic program, they haven't won a soccer game in 3 years. I'm a soccer coach, a successful one. Look up my record at the high school and college level. And I don't see a developmental program. I don't see extra work with the kids. And I can do that right down the line with that. I didn't cause that, but I'm here to fix it. And the only way I can fix it is by the community saying we have good things going and so on, and we're going to work it. And when I make changes, my changes have all been for the better. And I'll tell you right now, I would stand up to anybody saying over here that every change I make, my motto is, can I defend what I'm doing publicly? I couldn't defend having positions that didn't teach in a district this size. I couldn't defend having people no-show jobs virtually. They're gone now. I couldn't defend people bending the rules for adults and not for kids. And so I don't want to sit here quietly while we're trying to fix something so people can be proud of and have it torn down because of whatever reasons. So I'm not pleased. Thank you.
Mr. Lazo, I'm finished with this.
Just a point of clarification to the superintendent. This is not about you.
Thank you.
This is not about you, and it's not about from the time you've been here moving forward. I've been very supportive. It's what happened in June when we ousted our administrators.
Mr. Lazo,
Point of order, Madam
and your
Chair.
point of order, please?
Unacceptable.
Thank you. We'll move on to some other new
What's the point of
business.
order, Madam Chairman? I didn't hear a point of order.
Point
Violation
of order, it's a
parliamentary
campaign
procedures.
speech from the dais, Mr.
Excuse me. We will move on to other new business,
So what was
please.
the point of order, Madam
The
Chairman?
point of order is that you're speaking negatively and inappropriately about what happened in the past, and we're not, we're moving on. Thank you, we're moving on.
Violation of parliamentary
We are moving on to other new business. Thank you.
violation of parliamentary procedure, Madam Chair.
Thank you, thank you. Audience, please, there is nothing, please. Let's move on. Is there any other new business to speak about other than what was just spoken about? If I see none, we will move on to executive session where there is none, and we will now move on to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mrs. Principe to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Donovan. Roll call, please.
Show of hands, ma'am.
Show of hands, sorry. Meeting has adjourned.